Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet in her spice drawer. Toronto's autumn light slanted through bay windows as she chucked mismatched Tupperware from crammed cabinets, empty nest, overflowing junk. Then, beneath turmeric stains, fingers brushed buttery leather. A journal, pristine, gold-edged pages untouched since her daughter's high school graduation. Community center flyers fluttered on fridge magnets, virtual journaling circle, no experience, just heart. Linda smirked. Who needed therapy when chaos hid gems? She cracked it open. First line, today Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet, a half-hearted joke from her youngest as he hauled his duffel toward adulthood. Now, staring an empty hallway where backpacks once cluttered hardwood, she clutched her leather notebook, same one she'd used to track soccer practices and science fairs, its spine cracked like her rhythm. Toronto's autumn air carried cinnamon from a nearby bakery, but her chest felt stuffed with drier lint. Community center flyers flapped on fridge, taunting her with Zumba classes and pottery workshops. Instead, she logged into a virtual journaling circle, fingers hovering over keys like a kid testing pool water. Screen names bloomed, Maple Leaf 54, Midnight Gardener, strangers stitching their stories into pixels. Linda hesitated, then typed, "Today I burned toast." Again. Laughter bubbled up, unexpected as a rogue emoji in a eulogy. Others chimed in, "Girl, my cat judges my cooking too," and just like that, her loneliness became a shared meme, lit with glow of collective shrugs. She uncapped her pen, ink bleeding into pages that once held grocery lists. Memories surfaced, sticky hands tugging hers toward CN Tower, her husband's laugh before divorce. Fear coiled tight, a forgotten charger tangled beyond repair. What if she'd poured so much into motherhood, nothing remained for herself? But as weeks passed, her notebook grew plump with haikus for frost-kissed windows, rants about subway delays, even a doodle of that damn sock puppet. Online, someone posted, "Your words feel like my grandma's quilt." Linda grinned. Maybe emptiness wasn't a hole to fill, but space to stretch into, like her old leather journal, softening with every crease. Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet, but it was a weathered leather notebook that saved her. After her youngest left for university, she'd wandered Toronto's annex neighborhood like a ghost, lingering outside community centers where laughter spilled from open doors. One rainy Tuesday, she ducked inside to escape a downpour and found herself staring a flyer for a virtual journaling circle, "Write your next chapter." She almost walked away. Journaling sounded like something for poets or teenagers with too many feelings. But that evening, curled on her couch with a half-finished mug of chamomile, she clicked link. Faces flickered to life on her screen, women with silver streaks, bold scarves, knowing smiles. A woman named Marjorie, 72, and rocking fuchsia glasses, winked. "Welcome to Rebellion, kid. We're rewriting rules." Linda's first entry was a mess of crossed-out lines and coffee stains. She wrote about grocery shopping for one, about how her son's room smelled like old sneakers and ambition. But with each page, leather notebook, a thrift store find with a spine cracked from other lives, felt less like a stranger. Marjorie called it a witness, not a judge. By week 3, Linda tried a prompt, "What's lit in your life right now?" She scoffed, then scribbled about barista who remembered her order, "Way sunlight hit her balcony 4 p.m. like a spotlight." It wasn't healing, exactly. More like stretching a muscle she'd forgotten existed. Then came slip. Mid-Zoom session, her cat launched onto desk, sending notebook flying. Pages fanned open, revealing Marjorie's bold script in margins, "You're not empty. You're open for business." Linda's face burned but group erupted in cheers. Initiation complete. Someone crowed. By spring, Linda led a prompt on Found Joy. Women from Halifax to Honolulu shared stories of subway musicians, stubborn houseplants, second acts. Her notebook, now softened edges, held more than words, it carried proof she wasn't just moving forward. She was dancing. And music? That was all hers. Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet, which should have been her first clue life wasn't done surprising her. That puppet, left behind by her youngest when he moved to Montreal, became an accidental mascot for her journaling experiment. She'd scoffed when a community center flyer suggested writing through empty nest blues, but desperation made her stubborn. That leather notebook, bought on clearance years ago and forgotten in a drawer, became her battlefield. Its pages held more than ink, they held fights with silence. Toronto's winter gnawed her resolve, but Linda lit a candle, opened notebook, and wrote one clumsy sentence. Then another. She mocked herself for treating it like a confessional to some cosmic barista, but words piled up anyway. A virtual journaling circle, full of women who'd survived their own quiet rebellions, kept her accountable. They swapped stories of rogue garden gnomes and burnt casseroles, turning loneliness into something with edges she could grip. Midway through March, she hit a wall. Writing felt like chewing cardboard. But Linda, ever practical, refused to let a $12 notebook defeat her. She took it to High Park, scribbling observations between sips of terrible gas station coffee. A squirrel's theatrics, a teenager's disastrous skateboard attempt, tiny victories against void. Leather cover grew soft with use, a tactile reminder that healing wasn't pretty, but it was hers. By summer, she'd filled half pages. Not with profound revelations, but with messy, ordinary truth. Some entries were just grocery lists with existential footnotes. Others chronicled her grudging acceptance of yoga pants as legitimate outerwear. Virtual Circle cheered her on, their pixelated solidarity as real as ink stains on her fingertips. Linda never did find a grand finale for her story. But notebook, creased, coffee-spotted, stubborn, proved something better: renewal wasn't a destination. It was act of showing up, even when her handwriting looked like a seismograph reading. And if a sock puppet could start it all, maybe next chapter held surprises worth writing down. Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet, but it sure didn't end there. That ragged little prop, a relic from her son's childhood, had been her first sad attempt to fill silence. Then came leather notebook, thick, buttery, smelling faintly of possibility. She'd bought it on a whim, half expecting it to gather dust like her abandoned yoga mat. But this time, she didn't quit. Late one Tuesday, scrolling past yet another influencer's blessed post, she stumbled on a virtual journaling circle. Not therapy, not a mom group, just strangers scribbling truths. Skeptical but desperate, she logged on. First entry. Today I cried over expired yogurt. Not Pulitzer material, but damn if it didn't feel good. Week after week, she showed up, her handwriting loosening like a clenched fist. Then came gutsy move. Toronto's East End Community Centre advertised a storytelling night. Creator hesitated. What did a menopausal woman with a knack for burning toast have to say? But that notebook whispered otherwise. She signed up, then promptly hid confirmation email under 47 unread messages. Night of event, her knees threatened mutiny. Front row sat Marjorie, her knitting club frenemy who'd once called journaling navel-gazing for bored housewives. Woman gripped her notebook like a shield. When her turn came, she didn't recite some polished parable. She read raw snippets, mortifying mom fails, ache of two quiet halls, even that time she'd mistaken cayenne for cinnamon, R.I.P. breakfast. Silence. Then, laughter. Not her, with her. Marjorie's needles froze mid-stitch. Someone shouted preach. By time woman confessed to singing ABBA naked post-drop-off, room was lit. Later, a teen snapped a blurry shot of her mid-story, arms wide, notebook gleaming under stage lights. Overnight, it blew up locally, 50 and fierce. Why this mom's messy truth went viral. Back home, Linda traced notebook's creased spine. No magic fix, just pages that held her until she could hold herself. She smirked sock puppet now relegated to a drawer. Some voids needed filling. Others just needed a voice. Linda's 50th year began with a sock puppet, but it ended with a revolution, hers. That ragged puppet, a relic of her kid's childhood, had mocked her from its dusty drawer until she stuffed it into her new leather notebook, a joke-turned-talisman. Toronto's winter gray had seeped into her bones, but between those creamy pages, she found color again. Not with grand proclamations, but with messy scrawls, grocery lists morphing into gratitude, vent sessions blooming into verse. Her virtual journaling circle, born from a late-night click on a community center ad, became her lifeline. Women from Boise to Boca logged on, their screens glowing like campfires. Linda guided with a mix of no-nonsense warmth and quirky prompts, describe your mood as a kitchen appliance. Skeptical first, she soon craved their shared rhythm, their collective aha-s louder than any empty echo in her too-quiet house. By spring, her notebook bore coffee rings and dog-eared corners, its leather softened by use. She filled it with more than words, pressed maple leaves from her walks, a recipe scrawled by a circle member's grandma, a haiku about subway delays. Creativity, she realized, wasn't a solo act but a chorus. When she organized a local journal jam community center, strangers arrived clutching their own notebooks. Linda grinned as a 70-year-old in sequined sneakers declared her entry on Why I Dance While Frying Eggs, most liberating thing she'd written since, by 51, Linda's sock puppet had company. A glued-in photo of her circle's first meetup, their laughter inked beneath it. Her empty nest still stood, but now it brimmed with stories, hers and others. Grief hadn't vanished, it had simply made room for joy, silliness, and a tribe of women scribbling their way back to themselves. Grab a pen, your story's next chapter starts now.